Get ready for fun. Get ready for laughs. Get ready to have a great day. Live from the KHOU 11 studios, it's Great Day Houston. And now here's your host, Deborah Duncan.
Good morning and welcome to Great Day Houston. All right, that is the way to start a Monday morning. Well, most kids across the state of Texas started school about an hour ago. The Houston Independent School District is the 7th largest district in the country and the biggest in Texas. When you look at the thousands of jobs heading to the Houston area, it looks like we need every one of those students to be part of the workforce. But when it comes to jobs, there is a difference between the job you have, the one you want, and the one you need. Today, whether you're entering the workforce for the first time, switching careers, or looking to move up the corporate ladder, our experts have great employment and legal advice. Also, later in the show, what happens when you have to check yes on a job application when they ask the question, have you ever been convicted of a misdemeanor or a felony? We'll tell you how our city's largest employer is giving people a second chance. All right, let's meet our panel. We have career coach and corporate consultant Bonnie Monich, employment attorney Daryl Sincooley, and employment strategist and author of Promote, Rick Gillis. Employment questions today as well. You can call us at 713-284-1055, 713-284-1055, or you can email your question to greatdayhouston@khou.com or go to our Facebook page as well. All right, well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, we're in interesting times now when it comes to employment, especially here in Houston. Thousands and thousands of jobs, and the worry is that we don't have the workforce already here and trained to fulfill those jobs. All right, Bonnie, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
You have a background in employment for many years. One thing you did was did consultant work for corporations, so you know what they're looking for.
I do.
And you help bridge the gap with those who are looking for jobs as well.
Absolutely.
All right, so millennials. We keep hearing a lot about millennials. What's the biggest issue that you see between bridging that gap?
Well, you know, I get a lot of calls about the millennials from a lot of the clients.
That they're not human. The millennials.
Those young whippersnappers,
Yeah.
you know, whatever. That's an old term we could use. I think one of the most complicated things that are happening is that because of technology, and they've been raised and bred with technology, they don't seem to have very good, what you and I would call people skills.
Mm-hmm.
So when they get to the workplace, they really don't know how to communicate with a person like facing them.
Right.
So
Look, I'm going to send you a text, and then you just send a text back to me across your desk.
That's right. That's right. And because of the texting, they also don't really know how to compose a proper letter or you know, even write an email appropriately.
Right.
So there are these types of basic skills that many of us already knew when we arrived at the workplace.
Or applying
they don't
for
know.
something online only and not calling to follow up. So, well, they didn't email me back,
right.
so.
I've been busy this week. I sent out 100 resumes through the internet.
Yeah,
I'm exhausted.
Yeah, I'm exhausted. All right. Daryl, when it comes to employment and the law, there are some strict, you know, things that dictate whether something's illegal or not. A lot of times we misunderstand that, and we'll just say, hey, well, I'm going to sue them because they, she looked at me the wrong way. I'm suing for looking at me the wrong way, right? So, but that's probably one of the biggest complaints that you see. People come through the door saying, do I have a case?
One of the biggest complaints that I see.
Yeah.
So we see a lot of discrimination cases, or people who think they've been discriminated against on the basis of some protected class, whether it's their sex or their age or their race or their religion or so on. We see a lot of cases where people don't think they've been paid properly under the law, unpaid overtime and those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So, but back to the discrimination, everything that happens in the workplace is not necessarily discriminatory. If someone looks at someone in a funny way, there's got to be a lot more to it than that.
Yeah.
The law, it has a pretty high standard of what is required.
Right, because sometimes even if you have, if that person you could say, you know, is truly racist, but is it a corporate culture, that kind of comes into play, doesn't it, as opposed to an individual?
It can come into play, but an individual, if they do something enough times, or if the one time they do it is severe or pervasive enough, that action by that individual can actually be imputed to the employer as a whole.
All right.
So we just have to delve in and get more details about the situation.
Right. All right. Rick, you call yourself the job search mechanic. Right?
I do.
But,
I do.
You see a lot of places where people, as simple as your application or your resume, where people kind of count themselves out.
Yeah, and you know, the bottom line is you've always got to be expressing value. Now, I call myself the job search mechanic because there's a lot of technology involved that, quite frankly, when I was growing up, it was a paper resume. There was no online
your
application.
Mama knew somebody.
Well, okay. Now, to be fair to that, though, 60 to 80% of all jobs are still found as a result of networking. So your mama knowing somebody could be extremely valuable. And I will tell you, pursue that. And a lot of young people don't want to. My dad's friend, you leverage that all you can. But back to the piece about technology, you do have to know how to game the system, and that's what I teach. That's why I call myself a job search mechanic.
All right. Okay, so we're going to get to some of your questions here in our studio audience, and of course at home, you feel free to call us as well. Let's go to Cindy. Good morning, Cindy. There you are. What's your question for our panel?
I'm a stay-at-home mom and just re-entering the workforce. I have done a lot of community service and want to enter into being an event planner. So I am wondering, my education, I went to the University of Houston. Do I put that at the top of my resume, or do I put most of my community service?
All right, so several things right here. One is being out of the workforce for a long time and trying to explain that, but not discounting the fact that you did community service. All right, so let's start with the top of the resume, and then we'll get to the point of how her other stuff really is valuable work experience.
Education at the bottom. Education at the bottom. The fact is, I want to know what you have done, and let me explain something too. Your having been a stay-at-home mom has an enormous amount of value. And if you look at salary.com, they actually have a mom calculator, and last time I looked at it, it was about $116,000 a year if you included chaperone, psychologist, baby tender, all those things. So there's a lot of value in there, and anybody who will not allow and accept your professional stay-at-home mom, and that's what I call it, on your resume, I don't think you want to work there. It's a tongue-in-cheek. You should present it as a COO, CEO of the family. And I don't mean that figuratively or for fun. I mean that seriously.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And then Bonnie, the fact that she did volunteer work.
Absolutely, the volunteer work. What you're looking for is transferable skills. That's what employers are going to look for. And women that are returning back to the workplace need to really, like Rick says, take their position proudly. And you need to have a title on there. A lot of women say, well, you know, should I even list that? Yes, you should list that. And you need to list, you know, sometimes we say CEO or family manager or family COO, whatever you want to list as your title. Be proud of that.
Yeah.
And then list those skill sets, just like you would if somebody were paying you, actually, for that job.
You know, the other thing I would look at as a company, we have such a philanthropic, you know, corporate community in our city that I want someone who's done volunteer work. So outside of the skill set, this is somebody who has a heart and soul, and we want that as part of our community as well, or our corporation as well.
Right.
All right, let's go to the phone lines. We have Connie. Good morning, Connie.
Yes, hello.
Hello, what's your question?
If you have bad credit, how do you go about getting the job? I have no convictions or anything like that, but just bad credit. We had to file bankruptcy.
Okay. Let me ask you about that legally, because we're starting to see some of these things. Well, actually, it's been there for quite some time. In certain jobs, I know some journalism jobs, they want to make sure if you have this bad credit that you won't compromise a story for money or anything under a table. So how much can that play in somebody's not getting a job or being laid off?
It can come into play. There's the Fair Credit Reporting Act that has certain requirements that have to be met, but it is something that employers can look at. And I don't have all the specifics on it, but it is something that can come into play.
That they legally can say, sorry, we have a concern here.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah, so,
Deborah, I'd like to say something. You know, I forgot the name of the woman called.
Connie.
Connie, go and apply for the job and sell yourself and get the offer, because the background check is not going to come up until. Now, make sure at the end of the offer, when you do get the offer, that you express that you do have a situation and you want to be open about that and honest about it, because that recruiter, if they like you and they go into cheerlead mode for you, and then they find out you were kicked out because of a background check when you could have informed them of that. Recruiters have heard it all. They're people too.
Right. And here's the thing. I think a lot of us understand, you know, especially after 2008, we saw people lose their homes. We saw the market crash. Anyone can get into some financial trouble. It's if you got yourself out, you're trying to get yourself out, that can be appreciated by an employer.
Most financial problems come as a result of medical considerations.
Right.
So there's a
losing a
balance
job.
there. Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
And also remember that not all jobs do they check your credit for. It really depends on what type of occupation that you're applying for. If if you want to go into banking, they're going to
That
pull
might
your
be,
credit.
might be a little cinch.
If you want to be a financial planner, they're going to look at your credit.
Yeah.
And so, pay attention to the type of job it is, and they may not pull a credit report.
Right, right. All right, we'll be right back with more of our employment questions. But today on Facebook, we want to know, if you had the chance to pick, what would your dream job be? At